Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a very important topic that really is required to stay the course and heal after a very toxic or manipulative relationship with a narcissist, a covert narcissist, or someone who is psychopathic. Someone who has utilized a sense of really sort of exploitation of others around them, very manipulative in nature. And those individuals who, whether they have a personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder or not, they become a toxic or controlling or overpowering or dominating negative influence in your life. And this can creep in little by little, slowly by slowly, inch by inch, millimeter by millimeter, until really it becomes a point where they completely engulf you emotionally. And they take over really a lot of your personality or how you feel about yourself, how you engage and interact with others, life, how you view yourself, your own potential, what you're capable of, and ultimately your self-esteem. And really, when we talk about manipulation, there's a sense of helplessness or I am not good enough. I don't have what it takes. I don't have the juice. I don't have the DNA. I don't have what's required. I don't have the wherewithal. I don't have the clarity of thought process. I can't be decisive enough. I am not good enough. I am not enough. These are sort of the undergirding feelings or emotions or experiences that oftentimes are plaguing an individual that causes them to stay in an unhealthy relationship for too long, after they've worn out their welcome, after you've become really too much of a target or a victim to their exploitative nature. Exploitative meaning they're taking the best out of you and not giving you enough back. So, for example, we talk about exploiting the land, taking too much from the land, cutting down the forest, sharing it too close so that the soil, fries and burns and it can't rehabilitate the grasses. It can't rehabilitate the wildlife. Wildlife becomes extinct. Plant species become extinct. All for sake of growing a specific monocrop or raising a farm that is not meant to habitate in that area. Like we hear about the monolith corporations, the McDonald's, exploiting the rainforest in order to set up farms for their cattle and start growing, all sort of unnative species there, and it exploitates the land. It has long-range ramifications for not only that ecosystem, but for the ecology of the planet. So that is an example of exploitation, trying to take too much and not give enough back, and it becomes a very unnatural or manipulative process for a pathological self-interest. For example, in the state of a large corporation, for the interests of the corporation and not good for the land, the animals, the plants, and oftentimes those plants, those animals, that soil cannot speak up for itself. So it really becomes that sort of experience when you're in a relationship with someone who is highly toxic or manipulative and engages in pathological self-interest to the point where they violate your boundaries, and without your knowing, you become desensitized or numb or not able to perceive or sense your own rights and your own needs. So there becomes a desensitization or sort of a numbing or lack of awareness, lack of the ability to stand up for yourself and protect your rights, your voice, and really become sensitive to these experiences while you're in the midst of the relationship. And so it is to understand why it's so important to understand the dynamics that have set this going into motion and put a stop to it, put an end to it, stand up and become more sensitive, more sensitized, resensitize and rehabilitate your senses and become more sensitive to your own needs and your own place in the human race, and see it from new eyes, a new heart, a new perspective, a new breath, a new feeling, a truly unique and originally you experience, which only you can perceive and feel. Through your entire life, only you have had the set of experiences and emotions, decisions, qualities, and opportunities that were either there for you or taken advantage of or annihilated or numbed out to. So where you are is uniquely your space in life. And that unique space is what makes you unique and original. And that is your gift. That is your glory. That is your answer. That is your key to your happiness. So it is really called forth to stay no contact is to come into the present. No matter where you find your feet right now, that is where you should be. And then you've come upon this video, you've come upon this channel because the time and the pain is great enough. And you're saying, it is important for me to have leverage over my own self, control over my own self, and reclaim my own senses, reclaim my own best awareness, and engage within a higher order of thinking, which I'm calling forth and I'm receiving now. So that really becomes an awareness and a come to place, a new place or a plateau on your journey. And it's to come into a relaxed body. So it's to enter out of the manipulation, the fear, the fight or flight, the anxiety. It's to exit out of that feeling state that has been created once you have been targeted or manipulated by someone who has exploited you, who has taken too much, who has used the tools of gaslighting, manipulation, and really overwhelm to have you enter into a state of self-doubt and self-denial, annihilation of your own becoming sensitive to your own needs and feeling guilty for such, not knowing how to stand up for such, not knowing how to articulate. So it creates a real sort of anesthetist, a sort of a numbing, and then people wonder why they have stayed with this relationship for so long. They're wondering, how could have I allowed this to be? Why was this so? It's because little by little, your own voice was shut down, muffled, or pressed down, or suffocated, and not allowed to speak forth, not allowed to put the words together. So as a temporary basis, you were entered into a chronic state, oftentimes of adrenal fatigue or fight or flight or stress. And so with that, you had to put up and shut up. You had to accept that experience as really your ultimate reality and then define yourself through repetition and experience of staying there. You had to sort of enter into an unspoken agreement that you would put up or serve, enter into a servitude status of like, you know, I am not enough, so I must entertain your communication, your brainwashing, your gaslighting as what is right. So you begin to enter into really what is known as a Stockholm syndrome, or identifying with the abuser. And if you stay in this relationship over a long period of time through, like Dr. Joe Dispenza and his work, through repetition and experience, your body begins to rememorize and rehearse and replay the images in your mind of, and then the little snippets of how you identify yourself. You become defined by the I am not. I am not good enough. I am not lovable. I am not intelligent. I am not the right height. I'm not the right weight. I'm not the right skin color. I am, inferior. I am not good enough. So you begin to swallow this in essence as your I am. And rather than being identified with the I am defined by the positive, you become identified through the eyes of the abuser, the manipulator, who would hitherto have you keep in an inferior position as I am stupid, I am not good enough, I am lazy, I am a drug addict, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a gambler, I am impoverished, I have a poverty of spirit, I have a poverty of intellect, I have a poverty of resourcefulness. So you begin to become identified with the negative, and that's what we call negative validation. And so you begin to then, find ways to confirm this negative reality. And so you become really then through the eyes of this, you begin to identify with this. And then furthermore, your subconscious begins to find more reasons, opportunities, and experiences to reaffirm this. So you see, the perpetual drug addiction. You see the repetitive bad days, the repetitive chronic overeating, self-sabotaging. The self-sabotaging then becomes even when this person is gone, your subconscious then begins to find a way to then take on the torch, as I say, or, take on that baton, and you begin to then set up the wheels in motion for you to continue those disappointment or depression or victimized states. In other words, see, I told you I'm not good enough. Here I just did this. See, I told you I can't make it. I am weak, helpless, and meek, and so here I did this. So you begin to self-sabotage to then recreate the addiction to that disappointment or negative validation state. So you begin to kind of carry forth their wishes, if you wish, and stay in that negatively defined state. So that's why it's so important. You're still sort of replaying these in your mind. The mind, will tend to repeat the memories and experiences and then go to repeat the pattern to then recreate more. And so it's like a repeating loop. It's like a repeating pattern. It's a repeating set of emotions, of feelings, a repeating set of thought patterns that keep this into play. So people find themselves attracting the same negative people. They find themselves pushing away the good opportunities. They find themselves not believing in themselves, not being able to follow up on the positive opportunities that seem to flicker in and out of their life very quickly because they quickly discount it. They push it away. They alienate themselves. They isolate themselves. They push away the good people, the good opportunities, the good ideas, the moments of inspiration. Maybe, hey, I could have a shot at that. Maybe I can go it alone. Maybe I can go to that movie. Maybe I can build this. Maybe I can paint this. Maybe I can eat this instead. Maybe I can invest in this and save in myself. Maybe I can enter into a support group. Maybe I can get that book. Maybe I can try this. So it becomes really an absolute that one then begins to sort of rehearse and rememorize those negative feelings, so it becomes a perpetual loop. So it's so important for you to really detox and go no contact on all senses. I talk in the book about that I'm working on how important it is to resensitize yourself and reclaim your senses, not only your 5 senses, but your sense of intuition and your higher consciousness. So really 7 senses that really are all about you, and really sort of resensitize and reawaken with conscious effort to reclaim those, because your senses have become so inundated with the negative, including the replaying of the brainwashing and the gaslighting, the repetitive thoughts, the ruminations, you can almost have auditory hallucinations or visualizations of this person hitting you, of saying things to you, of the negative feelings you felt. So these are all encased, rehearsed, and rememorized in the body. Dr. Joe Dispenza, the body holds on to these. So, the mood repeated over a series of days, weeks, months, and years becomes a temperament. And then a temperament repeated over weeks, months, and years then becomes an identity. So your I am becomes identified with this negative feeling. And this is not your true, powered up I am state. This is a learned negative validation. So oftentimes this negative chronic post-traumatic stress syndrome is a learned state. This is a learned way of being. You've learned to isolate. You've learned to say, I'm not good enough. You've learned to say, I'm not. You've learned to identify with the negative evaluation of the manipulator. You've, felt then the trauma bond that keeps you inextricably bound to a dependent state, that you're kind of dependent on how this person sees you, and you're not able to break free. Breaking free seems wrong. It seems impossible. It seems the not right thing to do. You must stay down. You must stay underneath the guise of control and power and evaluation of this person. So that is the trauma bond. And so the narcissist won't empower you to, and then reflect oftentimes the positive things about you. You know, oh my gosh, you are so wonderful. You know, thank you for listening. Oh my gosh, you're so wonderful. Thank you for cooking. You're so wonderful. Thank you for doing this. You're not going to hear those words. You're not going to feel those feelings. You're not going to feel a sense of I am. I am good enough. Hey, I am wonderful. Hey, I do have what it takes. Hey, you know, I am smart. I am caring. I am loving. I am generous. I am all these wonderful things. So you don't have a chance to feel these things and have the gratitude for your life experience as such, because you've been so impoverished by a manipulator. The manipulators will impoverish you, especially someone who is malignant, malignant psychopathic. They will manipulate you to the bitter end of your destruction. And when they see you destroyed, they, champion and herald themselves. See, I told you so, and then they just walk away like they're just not impacted. They're not, they don't feel bad. They don't feel regret. They don't feel remorse. It's just how life is for them. They don't feel love, attachment to others. They just see others as an object for their manipulation to get whatever it is that they want. Whether it's food, money, sex, whatever it is, they are very parasitic and they need people in this nature in order to exploit and be like a host. So whether you've been targeted by someone who is narcissistic or antisocial, psychopathic, it really can put you in this disempowered and then negatively validated state. And this will continue even after they're gone. The feeling that you are terrified, you have a sense of being sort of emotionally overwhelmed, emotionally hijacked, emotionally taken over by this individual. So in other words, you completely disoriented in your senses. You have a distorted feeling state where you feel very petrified, very scared, very traumatized, a feeling that you can't stop replaying sort of what had happened to you. You're entering into, oftentimes a feeling of isolation or feeling alienated, or that you don't belong, or you can't perceive life in a peaceful, orderly direction of ways, peaceful, orderly direction, or positive, orderly direction, feeling and thinking. You feel lost. You can't believe where you're at. You can't believe that you're homeless. You can't believe that you don't have them in your life. You can't believe that you have, this job. You can't believe you're unemployed. You can't believe that you're now who you are because you don't recognize yourself in the mirror anymore. You're so unhealthy. You're so drugged up. You're so drunk up. You're so impoverished. You're so in debt. You can't believe you live in this town. You can't believe your wardrobe. You can't believe the books on your shelf. You can't believe what you said, done, and who you were, and who you pushed away. You feel completely lost or off track. And this can be a result of being manipulated in order to try to conform and fit in where you don't really belong. You do not belong with an abuser. You do not belong with a manipulator. You do not belong with someone who is psychopathic, who seeks your destruction. You do not believe, your I am should not have them in the same sentence. You should not incorporate your own essence, your own I am, with their effect on you, because it's been a completely manipulative state that's designed to take affection, joy, attention from you. Your paying attention is almost what I call your emotional currency, your emotional value. Your sense of self-worth has been set up in their hands, in their emotional pocketbook, in their manipulation. So people oftentimes, through the devaluation and discard, they feel worthless because they've been so used up and defined as no longer worthy to do whatever it is that they want, or you can no longer satisfy their needs, so you are quote-unquote worthless, or you can't perform the way that they want you to. You can't put up with what they've put you through, you're then desensitized to your own needs. So you become numb. You don't know where to start. You don't know where to begin. You don't know how to reclaim your sense of I am. And that is really the sort of dumbing down or numbing down of your life experience when you're with these chronic manipulators or exploiters. The people who will brainwash you into feeling that you have to give everything, your own sense of purpose, meaning, put your own self on the back burner. Always be thinking about them. It is always, one thing about the manipulator is they always want to be on the pedestal, the limelight, the spotlight. They are always having to be in the right, and they always have to have the win. The problem with a manipulator is they always need to come out as a winner, and there always needs to be a loser. You don't see a tennis match with one person, doing this with a tennis racket and bouncing a ball. There's always has to be a winner, and there always has to be a loser. It's always a match of wits. And if you look back in the relationship, you'll see how you had unconsciously committed yourself to this position of being relegated as less than, and sort of the self-deprivation state, and then self-neglect and becoming unsensitized to your own needs, unsensitized to your own worth, unsensitized, desensitized to your own sense of value. Your own sense of self-valuation was out the SHITTER. And so that's people are, needing to be reclaimed from this. So to reclaim your senses is so important. And so it is so highly, highly important that you go through a series of no contact with this individual. No contact meaning depriving your senses of all that they have put in your life in terms of how you are now where you're at. So going no contact means getting them out of your sight, out of your inbox, out of your photo box, out of your gallery, out of your flower box, any sort of item, any sort of picture, any sort of phone contact, any sort of things that they have given you in your visual environment, whether it be in your vehicle, your phone, your home, your backyard, your patio, your deck, your boat, whatever it is, you need to go no contact on the visual level. You need to remove this from a triggering sort of etheric energy around you. You need to get rid of them. You need to detox, and it's okay. You can do this. You must do this to remove them from this sort of negative valuation and disempowered state. So you need to remove them on that level, as well as the auditory level, removing all sort of videos, phone messages, replaying things on Facebook, with other sort of connections. Maybe there's other people who are the flying monkeys who continue to bring this person up, so you're hearing about them. You need to detox from that, and oftentimes the other set of visual and auditory situations that have brought this person or keeping them triggered in your life, whether it's music, radio stations, movies, TV shows. I always used to watch it with this person. This and this reminds me of this person. So you need to remove that as well. And then you need to resensitize. We're going to get there in a moment. The feeling of touch, other things, other tangible sort of feelings or clothing that you might have worn always around this person that reminds you of who you tried to be or who you had to become while you were with this person. I have, viewers who have, been involved in motorcycle clubs or what have you, and they have all this motorcycle gear. They became the motorcycle chick, the motorcycle guy, or whatever it is that you had then sort of taken on in your life to try to become a person, to try to fit and impress them, who you tried to be. You tried to be the bad girl, the bad boy, the stupid girl, the stupid boy, whatever it is that you had tried to become to try to belong where you don't belong. You had tried to, become and force yourself to stay in a relationship to serve as a counterforce to the force that they were creating in your life. So you need to take away all those senses and sort of how it, reinforced in your physical body. The feeling of, and we're just skimming over these, and we can go into more in depth with this, but then also, the sense of taste, the things that you used to eat, that, or where you've gotten yourself into a gustatory habit. A lot of people have numbed themselves with food. They have stress eating, or they have stress not eating. They've, created a diet where it doesn't reflect their own best interests. It doesn't reflect how they really want to be. You might be, ingesting a lot of alcohol or drugs or foods that aren't really in your best physiology. In other words, your body is not meant to consume all those, those foods. You were tall and slim, now you're tall and fat. You were tall and, or you were more physically robust, and now you find you've abandoned all the workouts. You've abandoned all your physical stuff. And then really very quickly, the sense of smell, how you have, created the perfumes, the the fragrance around you has become stale or unclean, and you're sort of in that funk. So you need to detox all those scents that sort of keep that negative I am into play, into motion, and in your life, and you need to purge those from your life. Also then, so you can then awaken up your senses and become more resensitized. So it's taking a concerted effort in surrounding yourself with the images, the photos, the artwork, the colors that are stimulating and reinforcing to a positive I am. And then also, when we talk about your sixth sense, your intuition and your higher consciousness, we're talking about waking up that inner I am and hearing your own cries for help, your own cries for I really need to. And then all the things that you've been procrastinating, putting off, putting on the back burner, and that have really sort of dumbed you down inside. And that have created an I am stupid, I am unlovable, I am slow, I am untalented, all those sort of feelings, I am less than. So we need to remove those feelings from your feeling body. And then also your higher consciousness, which oftentimes is not awakened to, your seventh sense, if you will, your higher consciousness, which needs to be enacted upon, which needs to be accepted, it needs to be acknowledged, it needs to be validated, that there is a higher calling that's trying to call you forth and bring you into a better path of life, a better space of being, a better place, more opportunity. You begin to awaken your senses. Life seems to take on that twinkle element again. It begins to team with life. You begin to hear the birds. You begin to feel the sun. You begin to feel the wind. You begin to see the path that you could walk. You begin to see the class that you could take. You begin to see the positive person that you can become, where you truly belong and are truly defined, that is extricated and not involved with this person in all the negative numbing of senses and creating the fear state, the isolation state, the anxiety that was embedded in your body. So you begin to emerge out of that like a cocoon or like a thick, hard shell that no longer is you. So it's like taking on or like you've taken on and learned and now are removing and unlearning and unidentifying with this feeling state, this negative thick shell. I mean, some people even envision it like a 3-foot steel wall that they had been living under. You are now, breaking out of that on all levels. So imagine it really like 8 to 9 feet extending in front of you, around you, up on top of you, towards the heavens, and then behind you, that this space is now clarified of all this negativity on all sense levels. And you need to enter into a very calm, peaceful state of being and allowing yourself to be. So you do your best when you're in a relaxed body, where your feet are on the floor, your body is uncrossed, and you are allowing yourself to then enter into a state of calm, in a state of peace, and allowing yourself to practice and rehearse that state. So this state can be done just through silent, just through sitting, meditative state, mindful states where you're being able to see, yourself in a relaxed manner where you're not being attacked. Oftentimes the manipulation and the attacks are actually received by the subconscious as an attack. So it causes you to enter into the fight or flight state, and then you rehearse this. That's why people are so anxious and they're so depressed, is because of this learned state, and they've learned to feel this negative feeling. And then your I am becomes then identified and tied in, to this negative state. I am anxious, I am scared, I'm uncomfortable, I'm ashamed, I'm embarrassed. All this begins to define you. So it is now to say, and enter into the calm, now that when you've ridded yourself of all this and allowed yourself to enter into the peaceful state where you can then become mindful and then enter into the metacognition where you have the ability to think about what you're thinking about and then become resensitized or more sensitive to your own needs, where you begin to say, wow, I am thirsty for water. Wow, I am hungry for nutrition. Wow, I am needing of belonging with a different sort of people. Wow, I do belong in a different space. Wow, I do belong in a better community. Wow, I do fit in at a better job. Wow, I do fit in with a better ilk of people. Wow, I am, okay. I am okay person. I do have all my senses, and I actually can see now with gratitude all the generosity that life has bestowed upon me. Even if it's having, a shelter over your head, a light for your lamp, water for your faucet, some food for your refrigerator, that is enough. I do have these staples. So it's to enter into this state and then begin your declarations. I am. From this positive, peaceful state. I am. And when you speak the I am, I call these astramations because they're actual eternalizations. This is about who you are, who you've always been, and who you will always be, despite all the abuse, despite the manipulation, despite the victimization. That's cleared from your feeling state now. And you get into the I am. And then the I am is spoken with confidence and declaration. I am. And you allow it to permeate the 8 to 9 feet ahead of you, 9 to 8 feet behind you, 9 to 8 feet on your sides, and then 9 to 8 feet above. So you're entering into this clarified etheric state. I am. And then I am magnificent. I am abundant. I am miraculous. I am inspiration. I am love. I am divine intelligence.